Black Friday is right around the corner, and it's time to get pumped for it. So I want to preface by saying I'm not going to be able to convince people whether Black Friday is a good thing or a bad thing. There's people that are super for it, and there are people that are definitely opposed to it and think it's just a big scam and that there really aren't great deals out there. I'm not here to convince one way or another. I'm here, if you're already committed to Black Friday, to get the best out of it. So the first tip is to stick to a budget. So whether that be a monthly budget, which I hope you're actually setting, or whether it's just a budget specific to Black Friday or just holiday shopping in general, make sure you actually have a budget for how much you're willing to spend for that weekend or for the holiday season. You know, ideally, you would stick to your monthly budget because that's why you set it in the first place. But if you are going to go beyond that budget, make sure you actually have a hard kind of budget that you're going to stick to. Because if you don't have a budget in mind, you're just going to end up just buying everything simply because it's a good deal or you think it's a good deal. I mean, a lot of these retailers, they'll mark stuff up to $300, $400 and then discount it to, 50%, and you're still spending $200 or $300, but you think you're getting a good deal, so you're just kind of impulsively buying it. So definitely set some form of budget, whether it be sticking to your original budget that you usually have throughout the year, or maybe it's some kind of maybe you're setting $100 extra for the specific month or holiday season. Make sure you stick to that budget. And before I get into the second tip, if you're interested in personal finance or credit cards or even business and economics, those are topics I like talking about. So please subscribe and like this video. It'll help support the channel a lot, and I definitely would appreciate it. So the second tip I would give is to prioritize your Black Friday shopping list. So there's kind of two ways to approach this. One being that you can kind of prioritize the list based on the best deals, so you have your best deal on top. The second way, and the way I'd probably do it, is to prioritize based on your needs. So for example, if you need a jacket, or if you really need like something like a shirt, maybe you have holes all over your shirt and you're trying to replace your wardrobe, then that's something I prioritize over, buying an expensive TV that's just replacing a TV I already own. Or if you're, Christmas shopping, if you're doing some of that early on, well, maybe you could prioritize that because that's something you're already committed to giving, then maybe that should be at the top of your list versus something like a TV that you're just replacing because you just want a bigger TV. So I prioritize that. That's the way I would do it. But either way, you need to prioritize that list because you need to start thinking about which stores you're going to go to first. And then on top of that, that's kind of the best way to start making a backup plan, which I'll get into that tip later. So the third tip is make sure you're actually getting a good deal. So Black Friday is kind of notorious for actually not really having the best deals anymore. Maybe 10 years ago, I remember when I was a kid standing in line for different electronics stores just to get that TV, and everybody would rush in. But nowadays, it's not necessarily like that. And that may be good because now it's not necessarily as chaotic, but the deals aren't really as great either. But either way, you need to make sure you're getting a good deal. So a lot of stores, what they like to do is basically give you no deal, but if you spend $100 or whatever the threshold is, they'll give you a free tote bag or maybe some kind of free gift that you don't necessarily need. But in your mind, you're thinking, oh, I got this $100 extra value just for shopping here. But you could have bought that same clothing or whatever it may be beforehand, maybe a week before Black Friday, and you would have got 50% off. Or maybe you can even just wait after Black Friday and get that same shirt even for a better deal, but you're not necessarily getting that tote bag that you didn't even necessarily need anyways. So another thing retailers like to do is to offer a discounted model that's not necessarily as good as the premium model. So for example, if you have an eye on a Samsung TV that's 55 inch and is, Ultra HD, well, maybe they usually offer for $1,000, but Black Friday, they're offering it for $600. And you're like, wow, this is a great deal. Normally, you would probably actually question it. Why is it only $600? But because it's Black Friday, it's a good deal. I'm not going to question, I'm just going to buy it. But what you don't know is that the model number may be even very similar, but it'll have this, dash XY or dash 12. And what actually ends up happening is that the features are less. So maybe it has, less HDMI ports, or maybe it's not necessarily, Wi-Fi capable or Bluetooth capable. And so then you end up buying this thing thinking one thing and thinking you're getting a good deal, but then you realize, well, hey, it doesn't have these 3 features that I really wanted. And now I can see why it's actually $600. And if anything, I probably overpaid for this because the features are what made the TV so great. So you need to make sure that these different little features that they add to TVs, that that's not something you care about, because if it is something you care about, maybe you're getting a better deal only because you're not getting that feature. Number 4 on the list would be to have a backup plan, as well as not go to a specific store just because of their top doorbuster promotion. So for example, if you're going to Best Buy and you're waiting in line specifically because they have this really good TV deal and they only offer it to the first 50 customers, I mean, that's what Best Buy is kind of counting on, or these different retailers, is they're trying to get you in the door with those doorbusters, and some of them you're almost guaranteed not to get because they only have 3 of those TVs in stock, or maybe they only have 1 of them in stock. And so then you end up there and you end up not having a backup plan. You're like, well, I don't want to leave empty-handed, so what can I buy? And then you just kind of on an impulse buy something that you think is a good deal, but maybe you wouldn't have bought otherwise. So make sure you have a backup plan, because if I go to Best Buy and I'm like, all right, I'm going here because I may get the doorbuster, but if not, then I'm also going to get this, monitor for a computer, or maybe I'm going to get a camera, whatever it may be. You want to make sure you have a backup plan, so that way there's 3 or 5 items on your list that are possible. And if you only end up getting 1 or 2 of them, that's still fine. That's a win for you. But at least you have that backup plan rather than impulse buying something you didn't even necessarily want. Number 5 on the list is to make sure that they're not offering the same deal online, because if they are, what are you doing, waiting in line or going through all the traffic just to get the same deal when you could just be at home in the comfort of your own home and just buy the same deal? If it's an in-person deal, then that's a different story. But if you're interested in something and they're offering it online, just stay at home or hit up the stores that only offer the in-store deals, and then just on your phone or whatever it is, when you get home, just order it online and you get that same deal. But keep in mind that if you're going to a store specifically for an in-person deal and it's exclusively in person and they don't offer it online, there's a way higher chance that they're going to run out of stock, because everybody's thinking that same way too. So make sure you kind of keep that in mind as far as what stores you're going to hit up first. So number 6 on the list is to make sure you understand the store's return policy. So, buyer's remorse is a real big deal after Black Friday and even holiday shopping in general. People buy a whole bunch of stuff they don't necessarily need. When that credit card statement comes in, they see they spent $1,000 in the span of 3 days or 4 days. Then they end up having some kind of remorse and they end up deciding, well, I want to try to return something. Well, don't be too timid or scared to go return it. At the same time, try to do all the preventative work so that way you're not returning a whole bunch of stuff, causing a hassle for, these store workers. But, if you end up needing to return something because it was out of your budget, or maybe you read reviews online afterwards, then you decided against it, well, you should probably return that item. But make sure you understand the store's return policy, because one or the other can happen. Sometimes stores extend their return policy for the holiday season, so you have until like January 2nd or, longer than their usual 30 or 60-day return policy. They extend it for the holiday season, which is great. But some stores actually have exclusions, like, well, for Black Friday deals or certain sales, they don't have that same return policy as they typically would. It's kind of like a final purchase offer type thing. So if that's the case, you don't want to end up buying something and then realizing, well, I don't necessarily want this, let me try to return it, and then you can't. So make sure you understand the return policy before you go to the store. So kind of a quick bonus tip. I used to work at Starbucks when I was younger, and the amount of people that would come in Black Friday is just kind of crazy. I mean, everybody's kind of in a bad mood. Everybody's on edge because everybody's trying to get the best deals and how to deal with the traffic and parking and stuff like that. So it's like, why would you kind of go through that? And on top of that, why are you paying $5 for a coffee anyways? So if you're interested in buying something like an iced coffee or something like that, just buy that in advance, buy it a day before, and just put it in the refrigerator. It's the same drink, because then you avoid the hassle, the crowd, you're not wasting your time in the store. So that's definitely something I would recommend, just kind of a fun little tip. So that's it for this video. If you appreciate what I did in this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. I definitely would appreciate it a lot. And, I plan on doing more video topics about business, personal finance, and credit cards. So please hit the subscribe button so you can stay tuned to those.